Recording in progress. Zoom just told me. Here we are, side by side. Good to see you,
A
Michelle.
few thousand miles apart, but
Yeah,
it looks like we're in the same backyard.
greenery.
Yeah.
Okay, we tried our pilot and we got a lot of beautiful, wonderful, supportive feedback. And we said, let's keep going with it. And quite honestly, even if we don't do a podcast, I'm just happy to see you and talk with you face to face. Normally we
Right.
talk like just on the phone, but this is good.
Yeah. On
Okay.
the phone and interrupted by our family, which is beautiful, but now we're saying, hey, we're gonna try to do this, so we might get uninterrupted. We don't know.
Right. Absolutely. So I flew back home. I am in Ohio in my backyard. The weather is beautiful. It's like 7 degrees and breezy. You're still in California.
Still in California. I'm not in my backyard. I'm in my HOA park. That's why I blurted out a little because you can see the playground and things, and I don't know if there's gonna be people running behind me like the our pilot episode.
That was so funny. That woman walking by. Oh, so perfect.
So that one we were recording. This one's Zoom, so you could do things with the background. So I played with it a little. Here we go.
Oh,
Yeah.
should I do some fun background too? Okay, we don't have time for that. Listeners, if you care, we've literally spent probably an hour trying to figure out what format, where are we recording, how are we recording. The audio wasn't good, so hopefully this
Yeah.
turns out
I
good.
I didn't have connection. I had to go ask for their Wi-Fi, and then I got all hot and sweaty, and then my hair started getting curly. I'm like, oh no,
You
here
look
we
beautiful. You're good. Okay, so we kind of talked a little bit last the pilot podcast about mental health and stuff. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we figured we'll just talk about mental health. I mean, everybody has mental health. It's the health of your mental well-being. I looked up a few facts if I can read them for all of us.
go.
And I
Uh,
took a little poll.
yes, and I love that you did that. But we just want to say we're just your average Joannas, and we don't.
That's
We're
a good
not.
disclaimer. We're not professionals.
Yeah, we're not men, so we're not Joes, but we're Joannas, and so this is just us expressing our experience in our mental health, and we're not giving any professional advice. Just here to express our sister confessions on our mental health.
Yes. I like that. I mean, we probably should do that like every episode. And by the way, I do have to say the last time that we did this, like you were sitting next to me and I wanted to look at you talking, but then the camera was here. I'm so happy to just look here and see you. So that worked out better. Um, Quite interesting when you talk about mental health. Like when you say mental health, what do people think of? So I took a poll today. Um,
Where?
mm,
Like a poll, just random people
Random people,
like at the store.
family, and yeah,
I
we
love
went
that
out
you do
to
that.
lunch and I was
I
talking
love
to the
that you do
waitress and I was like, so it's mental health awareness. What do you think of mental health? One woman said, chemical imbalance. Another woman said state of mind, well-being. My husband said status of one's well-being. My 16-year-old son said suicidal people. And then his friend was over and he said state of mind you're in. So it's really interesting where it's like the gamut. You know, when you think of mental health, maybe some people automatically think of suicidal, chemical imbalance, but we all are have mental capacities and we all have health. Like We all
Yeah.
have mental health, whether it's good or bad or chemically
Right.
imbalanced or not or ill or
Right. Like physical
so
health. Yeah.
yeah,
But it's
like physical
mental
health,
health.
but
Yeah.
mental. Um so I googled it. So mental health is a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being. Um And when I looked up mental health illness or disorder, it said a wide range of conditions that affect mood, thinking, and behavior. Some mental health disorders, schizophrenia, PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, bipolar, borderline personality disorder, ADHD, OCD, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, suicide, addiction, and others. And that came from NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Health. I mean, that's just a handful of things that a lot of us deal with or struggle with or and World Health Organization website says in 2019 one of every 8 people were living with a mental disorder, which is 970 million people in the world. Anxiety and depressive disorders are most common. In
Then would it be
2020,
considered a disorder if it's that common? Disorder means not the usual, not the norm. And if it's that norm, then wouldn't it just be a condition or I
well,
don't
it,
know,
it
maybe
wasn't
I'm
like minority
specific
or it wasn't
with
minority or majority or anything. Um, if a whole bunch of people have something that's a disorder or a syndrome or whatever, that doesn't make it not a disorder because a lot of people have it. It's still a disorder. Oh, disorder.
what qualifies as a disorder. Because,
I
yeah,
googled it. Is it backwards on the camera?
yeah,
Can
I
you
can
read
see
it?
it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So, a state of confusion or disrupt the systematic functioning or neat arrangement of disorder when you think of disorder. So, because majority or it's very prevalent, it doesn't nullify that it's still a disorder, I would say. Um, So in 2020, the number of people living with anxiety and depressive disorders rose significantly because of the COVID 2019 pandemic. Initial estimates show 26 to 28% increase, respectively, for anxiety and major depressive disorders in just 1 year. And I feel like we're seeing that in society with all the mass shootings and all the people like literally going crazy out in public. Like they're they're mentally not able to handle what's going on. Okay, while effective prevention and treatment options exist, most people with mental disorders do not have access to effective care. Many people also experience stigma, discrimination, and violations of human rights. And like I said, that was from the World Health Organization website, WHO. So I think we've talked about it abundantly over this past year about mental health, and so we're pushing record, talking about this. I would love to hear about your journey, Michelle. I We touched on it a little bit last year about. I mean, our last time we talked about what you've dealt with, and
Last year, too, while we discussed all our topics that we discussed, I think mental health and my journey always was brought up because I don't feel like I'm qualified to give anyone advice because I still
struggle.
struggle, but I know how to manage it a lot more
So
than my
that makes you
whole
so
life.
qualified because you've learned how to cope with it and you've battled it and so much more than you go and see a psychiatrist or psychologist. Yes, they went to school to learn about it, but you're experiencing it and you're coping with it. And so I would say that makes you super qualified. So, Michelle, take it away.
Someone that has just learned it from school, head knowledge, not live it. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Um,
Expert Michelle is gonna weigh in on her experience. Remember our disclaimer in the beginning, we're not experts.
no, no, not at all. Mm. I had to moisten my get ready for so we could go back to the very beginning. I was born October 3rd, 1984. Yeah.
Wait, fun confession. I don't know if this is a confession. Michelle is the historian of the family. She says she remembers being in utero. So
No. Well,
she remembers.
I
I
don't remember
know.
that, but I do remember. I mean, I probably could if I really meditated on it, but I do remember
I
a lot. Yeah.
I call Michelle for everything. Like something came up a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I think I remember this, but I need to verify with the historian of the family because Michelle remembers and Michelle knows. So, like, she has a great memory. I think I blocked a lot of stuff out, or I just was oblivious. I don't know. Either way. Okay, continue. I'm sorry.
So I was born via cesarean. My I wouldn't turn around, so I would have been
Preach.
yeah, I would have been born feet first if they went ahead with it, but they noticed that I was the wrong way. So I didn't. My mom had a cesarean and I was delivered. And you know what? In a podcast I heard, which is really profound to me. I mean, all these podcasts I listen to, a podcast I heard was um the way you're born does affect your thought of yourself. So babies, they've done there's a study. I didn't like for this podcast, I didn't do my own research, but I remember hearing about it that babies who are born naturally and come out of the canal are more confident. Like they started life out accomplished already. And babies that are taken out via cesarean are always feeling like they need to accomplish something because I didn't make the journey. I was I I don't know. But it registered to me because I always feel not good enough on one of my things that I the worksheets they have you check off at the therapist's office. um so that's the beginning. And then I got sick when I was 3 months old. I got meningitis, spinal meningitis. I was hospitalized for a week or two. I don't remember that, even though Desiree probably would say I do. I don't remember that, but I do remember always feeling vulnerable, always feeling, um, yeah, vulnerable would be the best word. I needed a sense of security. I needed a parent around me. I needed someone to be my rock. Um, since I can remember, I always felt that way. So I'm with my therapy. I'm wondering if that was the root cause of that. And so because of that, kindergarten was going to start, and my mom knew that was going to happen. So she put me in some preschools. She wasn't working. She was a stay-at-home mom, and she knew how attached I was. So she knew that I was going to start kindergarten. So the year before kindergarten, which I think nowadays is called TK, but there was no TK back then. Not in the when was it?
1900s. Roy says, "You're so old. You were born in." Oh, I said I wasn't going to say his name. Blur that out, people. But my 16-year-old son says, "You're so old. You're born in the 1900s." Okay, in the 1900s.
In the 1900s, yeah. Late 1900s. Yes, 1900s. Um, I she put me in several different preschools to try to get me used to like being separated from a parent, well, her. And I wasn't having it. I had separation anxiety like to the max. And I remember actually she tried several different ones. And I had no interest in being around other people. I was scared. I was scared. I felt like I was gonna, without that sense of security, I was gonna die. That's how I felt, like a weak, sick bird. That's how I felt.
Mm.
Even though I wasn't sick anymore, that's how I felt. And she did put me. There was the last one that I went to. She thought was okay, and um, I'm smiling because there's a ice cream truck coming by. So sorry if you hear ice cream truck. Maybe you could take a break and go get an ice cream.
Good
um,
idea. I'll be right back.
Stay tuned. We come back with ice creams. Here it comes.
Okay,
Oh,
just kidding. Just kidding. Continue. I don't have ice cream.
that would have been hilarious if you came back with ice cream. Um, so preschool, I cried in every one, but this particular one, they put me in a closet, a janitor's closet, and the man told me, "You need to stop crying right now, and you turn off the light and you close the door." And
In
I don't
the
remember.
dark.
Yeah, I don't remember. That's all I remember. Like I don't remember anything else. And I remember it happening daily. Every day I was put. And um, I asked my mom about it because I was going through therapy and trying
When you
to.
were older, you asked her about it when you were older.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. When I started therapy, I was asking her about it, trying to understand um, the whys of everything. And she said that I did tell her I was 4, 3.5 or 4 at the time. She said I did tell her that they put me in another room, but I was 4. I didn't know it was a closet or a janitor's closet, or I just told her that they put me in another room. And she told me that there was a new worker there and they saw what they were doing, and she didn't agree. Obviously, that's child abuse. And she told my mom that I what they were doing. She showed her the room and everything. My mom took me out immediately. Like I didn't. When she saw that, she took me out immediately. So that didn't continue. But I think that put something, instilled something in my head of even more. I can't trust anyone, and it's dangerous out there, and I'm not good enough. Again, I no one else was put in there but me. And another thing that I think through therapy, I think I come to of the not good enough was um we have a younger sister, she's a year younger than me, and she didn't have to go through the preschool in my memory, in my recollection. Because she wasn't starting school yet. I was. So my mom was putting me in school to get me ready. And all I saw was her getting rid of me
Hmm.
and my little 4-year-old brain, you know. So I think that's what started everything. Also, depression runs in our family. So I,
Mental illness. Mental illness.
right,
Significantly.
several different things. Yes. So
So we
it
have
could have been dormant, and I've heard triggers. If you have that in your family and your genes, and there could be a traumatic event or a trigger that'll ignite whatever it may be. And in my case, it was depression. So um, my whole childhood, I was depressed and down, and didn't I didn't know what it was. I didn't know to how to label it or anything like that. I just knew I didn't want to be here. And I felt like that for my 30 plus years of living, until I found a great therapist um, in my 20s that I mentioned in our pilot. So started that therapy, and that was using EMDR, where she
What does EMDR stand for? I should have
eye
I should have
movement
told you.
sensitization, um, eye movement desensitization, and I forgot what the R was. Um, so it has to do with eye movement or anything rhythmic, and what it how
Reprocessing. I'm sorry.
processing. Go
Thank
ahead.
thank goodness for
Tell us
Google for eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing therapy, EMDR, is an evidence-based approach to treating trauma and PTSD.
yeah, and I started seeing her through a program through work, and um, she she started EMDR with me, and it really it accelerated my healing, because I've been going to psychiatrists and therapists since I was 12, and nothing. I'm just repeating everything that is in my brain, or if I can even articulate it. A lot of stuff I feel and think I can't articulate. I feel like the English language, or the only language I know is English, like fluently, is very limiting for what's inside me. I have a hard time um, expressing my thoughts, any thoughts. Go ahead.
So I don't want to be the only one doing sister confessions here, but I'm going to call you out again. Like, please call me out at any point. So many times me and Michelle are talking, and she's like trying to say something and verbalize what she's thinking, and she's like, I hate the English language. Like, I don't know how to say what I'm thinking right now. Like, anyways, side note.
Yeah, I don't know what language that could express
The heart
everything.
language. Yeah.
I can't wait for the day that I've said this before and people get terrified, but I don't care. I can't wait for the day that we have ESP, so that we don't need to communicate through language, and we can communicate just by looking into each other's eyes and our souls talking to each other, because
It's
I
hard for you
struggle.
to,
I
yeah.
struggle. Yeah, but um
So I have an interjection here. I remember, I think, I don't know if we talked about it, the pilot program, the first pilot podcast, but you when we went to Grand Canyon, we took a vacation from California to Grand Canyon, and when we got back, Michelle had said, "How old were you then?"
say it 7 or 8.
So
Yeah,
go
and
ahead.
yeah, that wasn't in the we it wasn't a conversation we've had, but no, it wasn't in
Oh, it wasn't okay.
no. Um yeah, we went on a family vacation. We took a whole road trip all the way up to Canada and then all the way back, and we stopped at rest stops and camping um
KOA.
KOAs, thank you. Camping KOAs. Never at a hotel or nothing. It was a experience. Um but I remember being at the Grand Canyon at 7 or 8 years old, and just wanting to jump off, and not wanting to jump off to fly, wanting to jump off because I didn't want to be here anymore. And I didn't know anything about any of that. Uh, Suicide or I didn't know any of that. All I knew is I didn't want to exist. I just wanted to disappear and not feel this feeling that I've been feeling for the past
Your whole life.
7, as far as I can remember, yeah, 7, 8 years of my life, you feel like you're in a hole. You feel like you're down in a well and you can't get out. And you see everyone walking around living life and you're like, how can I join them? I don't know how to join them and I don't know how to get out of this. That's you just feel like isolated and down, and you kind of want to just hide from everything and not be around. Um and I think it got worse, I don't think it got worse. It's always been that way. I think it got attention during our parents' divorce. They got divorced when I was 11. So I think it was from that triggering, oh, maybe Michelle needs therapy because she
Oh,
was already sad
because of the divorce. Yeah.
and now we're getting divorced. So let's put her in something. Um, and I appreciate the help that our parents, our mom and dad didn't, no, they didn't deal with depression or know anyone that had it, and it wasn't talked about
Oh,
back then.
it wasn't talked about. Oh my gosh, Zoom, I'm getting this, like, your free meeting will end in 10 minutes.
Oh no.
This is our first, like, do I just need to upgrade? I'll pay it. I'm gonna upgrade. Keep talking. I don't know. Oh no, I don't know what's recording, but let's
Okay.
continue.
I could
Episode 1.
I could speed it up. So yeah, it started what I mentioned before, the therapy. Since it was psychiatrists, and they don't help you with life. They help you with medication. They don't help you with life skills, and that's where therapy comes in. And I started going to therapy later on, but I never found anything helpful. It's good to talk to someone that is not in your circle or that's objective to your family. And if you complain about your significant other or whatever to family members, they start having judgments and stuff, and giving you advice on their own biases. And if you go to a therapist, they don't have any of that, so they can give you an outsider's opinion. So I I'm not putting down all therapy. I just know what worked for me, and mine was the EMDR, and it sped everything up, um, to where I've done therapy since 18 to 28, and nothing. I was still at zero, uh, you know, ground zero, depression, depressed, and
Hey,
um,
Michelle, can you just pause? I don't know. Let's just pause right now. I'm going to
yeah,
enter my credit card information, and I don't know if it's recording all this, so I'm going to cut it out either way.
yeah, yeah.
Hold on. Pause. And I'm going to go pee real quick. Okay, I'll be right back. Give me like 5 minutes to get my card and pee. Okay, continue, Michelle. So EMDR and therapy and depression in her life, and not even realizing you had depression, but like just wanting
Right.
to. Can I say something about that? I remember we went to Disneyland. It was like amazing. Well, we lived in San Diego, so we went to Disneyland, I would say kind of often, like once a year maybe, or
Really?
once every couple years. I don't know,
Okay.
historian, you tell me. Didn't we like I remember going, okay, not once a year. I remember going a handful of times in my
A
childhood.
handful of times, yes.
Okay. Every few years. Okay, how about that? And I remember one time we came back from Disneyland, it was awesome, and you're like, "Ah, it was okay." Like, you just weren't excited about it, and
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people. Um, it was nice to see the characters, but
nothing nothing,
nothing was exciting to me. I
nothing.
was
Yeah.
a kid, yeah,
Yeah.
and Disneyland didn't. I think that's why as I got older and learned better to manage it, I like Disneyland. Even if there's a lot of people, I was able to enjoy it through a kid's eyes as an adult,
Mm.
because I didn't as a kid, because I was suffering
Mm.
in my head. And that's a lot of what has helped me now. I mean, EMDR helped me through understanding why I am how I am, because before I just was like, I don't know. I just everything's hard
Horrible.
and
It
I'm not
sucks.
good
Yeah.
enough, and
Yeah.
it's just ugh. But it helped me understand it, and now that then for me to understand it, I know what I need to work on. And
Mm.
talk therapy is great, but I you just talk about it, then you go home, and then nothing gets you don't get to the root of the problem.
You can. Cognitive behavioral
I
therapy.
didn't. I didn't.
Okay.
A lot of
Peop
it can help.
People
It all
can.
depends on exactly. When I say
Right.
you, I meant me.
Yeah.
It can help me.
And
Um,
it can take a long time, but EMDR gets to the root of it, and it was, like, profound for you and phenomenal, and I remember a few times, like, you just cry, you hated school, you didn't wanna go to school, and our parents were checking us in, and I was like, "Why are you making her go to school? Like, can't you just do homeschool?" I just was heartbroken for you, seeing you suffer in that way. You just cried and didn't wanna go to school, and I
well,
remember
school is a whole other topic.
stay tuned for bully episode
Bullies, yeah.
TBD.
I mean, little kids are precious and they have no filter, so they knew, like, they could also sense a kid that is timid, and I was timid, and they knew it, so they were kids. I
Mhm.
don't want to dismiss that saying, oh, they were just kids, but um I mean, if no one's at home, that's a whole other
Yeah,
a whole other
we'll talk
topic.
about that because my daughter's 9 and she's dealing with that now significantly. She's been bullied and she experiences anxiety and she feels everything deeply. She has since I noticed it since she was like 2 or 3, like a lot of joy, a ton of empathy, and she just recently she's like, "Do I have anxiety? Do I have an anxiety disorder? Like why?" She bites her nails and she feels anxious, and so we're dealing with that with her right now, and how I explained it to her is
9.
that 9, yeah. How I explained to her is everybody feels anxiety, like that's a normal emotion, just like depression. Everybody feels depression, everybody feels sadness, but it's what makes it a disorder is when it impedes your life and whenever it takes over. So it's okay if you feel it and you have to learn how to cope with it. And we all have the spectrum of emotions, but it's on how we cope with these things
Yes.
um, is how we deal with it in our life. And so I want to talk more about how you've learned to cope with it. Like you are, I'm going to brag on Michelle. I love a good love fest. And
No,
Michelle is so successful. She is a design engineer. Is that your title? Senior
no.
engineer?
Yeah. I mean, that's my title, but I'm more than that.
And so much more. She never wanted kids. It was just so overwhelming for
It was
Michelle. Like
overwhelming. Yeah.
I don't want kids. I don't
I
want
couldn't
I
imagine of
how can
I
I
can't
yeah,
imagine being a mom, yeah, of going through what I
caring
go through.
yeah, caring for other people when I can't even get through the day and she has two beautiful children and Michelle, you're an incredible mother and she's married and she has battled and struggled and has victory over this. Like you have worked really hard. And I want to say, anybody that's dealing with depression or a mental health disorder, that there's hope. Like you can get the help and seek the help, and you can do it. And I've seen Michelle persevere her whole life and here you are, and here we are doing a
Mhm.
podcast on things. Michelle, you've successful. You make twice as much money as me as I do. I mean, okay. Success is not determined
No, it's
on
not.
your salary.
No.
But I graduated college and Michelle went a different path and got apprenticeship programs, and
Yeah.
she's like in a male dominant field and is doing really, really well for herself. Makes a lot of
And
money, a lot of
I find that pretty ironic for me, a person that doesn't feel good enough. I going to school for engineering full of males. I was there were three females in the class and the other two were going for architecture. I was the only one going for mechanical engineering. And then um when I was going to school for it, I worked at an auto parts store because I love cars, and I was the only female there. But I love cars, like that's not gonna stop me. But then for me to say I don't feel good enough and I keep doing all these things,
mm,
I, I, and then I'm like, why am I putting myself in these situations?
mm,
But
mhm.
also,
You're pursuing your passions and you
yeah,
were fighting against everything. So that just shows your strength. And anybody who's dealing, I mean, we all have mental health. I mean, it's the health of our mind. We all struggle and ebb and flow, and sometimes it's strong and sometimes it's weak. And I had a mental health crisis last year, and this is where this kind of all came up, where me and Michelle talked frequently, and we had
yes,
these beautiful discussions. And
yes,
we just said, let's just record our talks and let's just, put it out there. Let's hit record
right,
and see what happens. So, what are some things that you
yeah,
do to help you throughout the day? Are you so you've been on medication a lot, up
yeah.
and
I'm
down
still
through the
on
years?
medication. Um, and that's the funny part. It's not funny, but the
Ironic.
ironic part of it is I've been on medicine since I was 13, so for 15 years. And I keep trying to get off it because I don't want who wants to be on medicine. But I get off it when I feel good and I feel good when I'm on it. I mean,
Mm,
so it's like I'm taking it and then I'm like, okay, I think I've overcome it now. And then I get off it and then I get into a hole, into the well, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I need it, and then I got to get back on it, and it took a long time. That's another thing for depression is if you are going to get on medication, it's so much work to be on medicine because you have to find the one that works for you, and the doctors are they don't know your body chemistry. Like they're just going off of your symptoms and they're just like, okay, try this. And then you got to wait 3 weeks and then see what that does to you. And then you got to go back and then you tell them what is like, no, it's not helping, or yeah, it's helping, but not really. And it took a long time for me to find the medicine that I'm on. And then as I was on it as a teenager. And then when I got older, it
it
stopped working.
changed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Your
because my
body got
body
used to it.
changed.
Yeah.
Probably got used to it. So then I went through a whole 5 year trying to find another medicine, and then it made me gain a whole bunch of weight. It made me even more depressed. There's a lot to it, and I wish what I found recently. I wish I found it sooner to where I didn't need medicine, but and now I'm on it and it's helping. And I feel like what I found also is an aid to the medicine. So I still take medicine. I haven't been able to get off that yet. Um, but a lot of my coping skills is mindfulness. It's,
Mm,
and I learned that with my therapist, who it is not a part of EMDR. She just Here's a coincidence. I mentioned Ram Dass in the last one. I told
yeah.
her about it when I started listening to podcasts, and he's all about being here and now, being mindful of just right now. Nothing exists. The future doesn't exist. The past doesn't exist. all that exists is right now, and you could get lost in your thoughts in right now. And what helps is getting out of your thoughts, and that sounds easier said than done, but I was guided through how to do that. And like right now I'm sitting at the park and I hear these crows flying by, and I would be annoyed, but they sound beautiful to me. I love it. um I feel the breeze in my hair.
Mm.
Like I I only think of what's happening in this second, this exact second. And guess what? That second's gone. And now we're in this second. And that second's
Mm.
gone. Like all of that's history that doesn't exist no more. We're right here, right now. And
And
that
enjoy it. Yeah.
and enjoy it. Feel like all our senses. We're existing and we're not feeling our senses all the time. Like the wind in my hair or even on my arms. And we don't sit and just feel
The
what
beauty of
exactly
right
is
now.
going on right now. And part
Yeah.
of the EMDR, she would ask me, you okay, this is upsetting you. Um, where do you feel it in your body? So it made me mindful of, okay, I'm upset and I feel it in my back, or I feel it in my chest, or I feel it in my gut, or wherever I feel it, it all depended on what it was. And she would just note it down, and I think it didn't matter where it was just me tuning into myself. And
Mm.
I call her my Mr. Miyagi, because she was teaching mindfulness to me without me even knowing it. Like she
Mm.
was telling me,
Mm.
where do you feel it in your body? And I thought, and she wrote it down, but I thought she was gonna like use
Do
it as a
something with it.
measurement
Yeah.
of something, and nothing happened
Right.
with it. It was just
Yeah.
me tuning into myself. And I do that all the time. And I remember a conversation we had, um, I don't know, 6 months ago or so. And we were talking about, I told you it's constant. I was trying to help you and I was like giving you pointers, and I'm like, it's constant remindings. You have to constantly remind yourself because it's not automatic
One
right
and
away.
done. Or one and
Yeah.
done. Like you recognize it and that's it.
Yeah,
But
you're
continual.
programming your brain because your brain is used to all the defaults, and all the defaults is all negative. And so it's constant, and you're like, isn't that exhausting? Remember you asking me that? And I was like, it
Now
could
that you
be, but
mention it, you're right.
it could be. But what's more exhausting is living in the hole. That's more exhausting than reminding myself,
Mm.
no, that doesn't, like, whatever I'm thinking of the past, or worrying about the future, or I'm just all in my head. And just taking a breath and remembering what not no re, there no no there's no remembering. It's just remembering to be here right now. None of that exists. None of it, whatever it is that's bothering you, doesn't exist right this moment. You're sitting here, I'm sitting here, we got this beautiful greenery around us and a nice breeze and the birds, and that's all that exists right now. Nothing else exists. And then that moment's gone and you start thinking of something else that's bothering you, and then you remind yourself, and it's a constant thing. But then you do it enough to where you could get out of it faster. And I've been doing it
Mm.
for 3 years, so I get out of it. I still go there.
3 years.
But
I
I
do want to say your daughter is so precious and beautiful, and she just turned 2.
just turned to.
And so I remember when you got pregnant with her, you couldn't take your medication.
I couldn't take my That's right. So
And that was a
being
really
pregnant,
big
you can't
deal.
take antidepressants
Yes.
because it
And
affects the baby, the
fetus.
fetus
Yeah.
development. And yes, thank you, Desiree.
Yeah.
I struggled because my
Yeah.
body was going through. Well, first of all, I was hooked on the medicine, so I had to go through
Well, withdrawals.
withdrawals. My body, it's a medication. Like it's not just I get sad. My body is addicted to it. If I don't take it, I get sick.
Right.
um I feel sick. I mean, it's not a drug, extreme drug like um those other ones, but my body does go through withdrawal, and I did have to go through that. And then I had to find
Oh,
something to
with
help me
yes,
with
yes.
my, not just not being on medicine, but being pregnant and everything changing inside me.
Hormones,
Hormones,
and
everything.
you had a
And
son at that point, like, who was 3 years old
he
and
was
working full time,
at
like, it
the
was
time,
just very
you know,
overwhelming. I remember.
working. I was
Yeah,
trying to start a business, so I was working more than full time. I'd be working till midnight, um, when I was pregnant, on projects I was trying to get done because I was working for myself. That was my own choice. I wanted more time at home to be with the family, but then I'm working
yeah,
around the clock, even though I'm at home. But yeah, so I found breathing helps. I breathe a lot, big breaths, breathing exercises. I've done guided breathing meditations on YouTube, just because when we get upset, we don't breathe and we don't even realize it. And then our body goes into stress mode internally because we're not getting enough oxygen in our body. And then it's just a whole vicious cycle. If we just stop and breathe, we calm down just by doing
it
that. And then,
regulates it, yeah.
yes. And then telling yourself, it's a lot of self talk, and it's a lot of loving self talk
Mhm.
of, we're okay, and none of that, whatever you're thinking about is not happening right now. You're
Right,
right
in the
here, right
moment,
now. What's
yeah,
happening right now? You're safe. You're safe. Right now, we're safe. A lot of feeling down in the hole is worrying about what can happen because you got laid off, or, well, now there's no paycheck. But guess what? That's the future. I'm not saying not to plan, but I'm saying for us to help calm ourselves down, and just not get in the whirlwind of our thoughts, because honestly, that's where we all struggle, is we're all in our heads, and we're
yeah,
all, and if we just take a moment and breathe and just appreciate the here and now, it and it sounds so simple, but if you think about it, how often do you do that?
right. One of my favorite Bible verses is in Matthew. It is, "Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." And it's such a great reminder. I obviously am a
That's it.
Christian, and that's it. Don't worry about
Exactly.
tomorrow. Like, here and
Yes.
now.
and,
Tomorrow will worry
and I
about
love
itself.
that.
Yeah.
And I love that. And one thing that I missed, meaning I didn't get from church, was they would read that and then say, okay, now do that. Like, and there was no guidance
How?
on
Right?
how.
What?
Okay. Yes, it says that. So go do it. And I would ask questions and they would dismiss me. And so I, I finally found things that teach me how to do it. And I found a lot of things that correlate to the Bible, even though it's not quoting the Bible, but I've been to church.
Rooted in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Oh, that that's what they meant in the Bible," but no one's
Mm,
ever said it that way. They just
explained it.
give you a
Yeah.
set of rules. Yeah. So,
Oh, religion. It's on the hot topic list.
yeah. So
So,
I've found in podcasts, when you tell me about it, I found comedians, a stand-up comedian, women, and they were so funny. And they had a guy on there, Pete Holmes, and he said so profound things. And he was a Christian. And when I say was, I mean, he still believes in Jesus, but he doesn't go to a Christian church because of he's more
The,
spiritual than rules.
the organized religion, it can.
Thank you. So I once I heard him and I was like, oh my gosh, this makes everything made like so much sense. Speaking about things like this, I found him, and then I went through the whole then he was on a podcast, Duncan Trussell, and then I listened to Duncan Trussell, and then through Duncan Trussell I found Ramdas, and Ramdas was like the top of the tree. Well, there's a even more person above that.
God,
But
Jesus,
no, even
the
more,
Bible.
even more.
Oh, what? There's no
No,
more
God's
than God.
even more.
Oh,
God's even
okay.
more. But Ramdas was a psychiatrist. He taught psychiatry at a college, and he that's a whole other. We've been already talking a long time, but I
I know
found
we
him.
have, but we haven't recorded the conversation, so we'll have to get back to it. But keep going. You love Ram Dass.
Yeah, he explains it so well. Of I mean, he has a whole thing called "Be Here Now," and it's just. And I started listening to him, and that's the amazing, beautiful, most synchronicity part of it is I started listening to all his stuff, and it clicked. Like it made so much sense. I was like, this is what I've been looking for my whole life. And then I told my therapist about it, that I've been seeing already for 8 years.
Mm.
And she's like, oh yeah, I went and I saw him in person. What? You know who this guy is? And you saw a lecture. Like she went to his actual lecture, and she's like, yeah, I followed him for a period of time. So I feel like that's what she was helping me with, the mindfulness, without even me knowing it, just being.
Mm.
And then just everything connected, and everything made sense, and everything makes sense all the time. I see synchronicities all the time now, and I can't wait to what tomorrow brings, because life is so magical now. I mean, even today you were like, I'm a little nervous, and then we hung up, and then all of a sudden something popped up on your phone about, you
Oh,
know.
I'll share it. Okay, I texted it to her. I'm like, all right, well, we're going to talk about this. And I was really just happy to talk with her in person. Usually we're just over the phone, but yeah, something on Facebook popped up to right after I shared that with her. I was like, I'm feeling a little nervous. And it says we often want it so badly that we ruin it before it begins, overthinking, fantasizing, imagining, expecting. Let it naturally evolve. And it was just a beautiful quote of like, whatever will happen, will happen. And that's how we've been approaching this is, no pressure. And that's how we should to this. Okay, scene change. We had technical difficulties, and that's what happens, I guess, with rookies or just anyone who uses technology. But we're back. It's dark here in Ohio. It's nice and sunny still in California.
Yeah,
So
so sunny here.
we were talking about, oh, I have a funny story about that. When I came back from visiting California, the next day I was getting my daughter ready for school, and I checked my weather app to see, because in Ohio you never know what the weather is. And I was like, oh my gosh, it is going to be sunny and beautiful all week. I don't think I've ever seen the forecast like that here. Like, wow, what a blessing. It's going to be beautiful. I was like, oh, I was looking at the San Diego forecast. I was like, okay, wrong forecast. Ohio was not
What
that
was
at
it?
all.
What was it that week?
Just kind of cloudy some days, some rain, some sunshine, and a lot colder, that's for sure. So it was hilarious. I'm like, I need to switch my forecast here. Okay. Anyways, we digress. So we were talking about mindfulness and how you've dealt with living with depression and what an incredible enlightenment you have and joy for life. And that's what we want to talk about today is that there's hope and people just need to find what's right for them and they need to keep hope and know that there's um a lot of different techniques and options and different things that they can do for themselves and we just each one of us needs to find that we all have mental health, we all have to figure out what works for us and coping skills and all that. So
It, it's a lot of self-awareness. It's a lot of not letting the circumstances dictate your feelings, which I mean, I'm not a master of that at all. I can't wait till I am, but I'm not there yet. But at least I'm aware of it and I know where I want to be. And I know that before I just didn't want the depression. And now I know how to work with it, how to manage it, and how to um, set my new goals, which would be, not not have a reactive mind to everything, uh, not let circumstances be, um,
yes, appearance by husband. Sorry, continue.
not let the circumstances of life dictate my internal well-being, my mental health. Like I am who I am no matter what. That's my goal in life right now. Uh and to teach that to my children. And I know that you and I talking this past year and what got us into wanting to record our conversations where we got really deep in our conversations and you had some struggles and I had no idea how to help you because I was like, why are you calling me? I don't know. I still have it too, but um it wasn't why you calling me like that. Please let me clarify. I didn't feel worthy to give you advice. I was there to lend an ear and tell you what I've gone through and you said it was helpful. And so here we are.
Here we are. Yeah. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversations, and I hope that anyone who's listening, if you're struggling with mental health disorders or illnesses or ebb and flows, everyone has, they're in a different spot. And we just hope that our conversations might be enlightening to you, maybe give you a glimmer of hope or a technique or a tool or something to get through. We're all like, this journey of life is a lesson and we're all learning along the way. And so hopefully it's helpful and we will pick up soon.
Yes.
Okay. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, I love you. I'll see you later.
You.
Bye.
Bye.